Sakuya is a mid-detective writing his legendary dad's name. The problem is, he keeps getting himself killed on every case. Luckily, he can revive every time, using his own deaths to speedrun every case. Otsuki Sakuya has always lived under the shadow of his father Tatsuya. Desperate to be a legendary detective, Sakuya tries his best to mimic a fraction of his father's success. But the only redeeming quality about him is his baddie assistant Lilithea, who is always ready to serve and protect Sakuya no matter what. Despite his shortcomings, Sakuya still works as a detective. However, he also has an awful tendency to get himself killed every single time, so he makes sure to write a letter for his absent father, not knowing when he will meet his demise. For someone who is supposed to be logical, Sakuya believes in all manner of superstitions and fully believes that observing a bad omen is a sign of his death. As usual, after writing his letter, Sakuya heads to his office to resume work for the day, but he finds himself confronting Lilithea as she intentionally takes a huge sniff of Sakuya's smelly old jacket. Confused and slightly creeped out, Sakuya wants to know why Lilithea would sniff his clothes like a dog, but the dutiful assistant acts aloof, completely dodging the question. Sakuya believes that perhaps his smell is some sort of a woman attractor, but if that were true, his high school days would be a lot more fun. Lilithea then turns the table and accuses Sakuya of spending time with a hot nurse at his school. She can smell expensive perfume and a hint of disinfectant coming from Sakuya's clothes. This suggests that Sakuya went to the school's nurse and probably had a little fun of his own. The evidence is all laid out so Sakuya can't exactly dismiss the whole thing. He admits that he scraped his knee during gym class and had to get it checked out by the nurse. Somehow this checkup turned into a full-body examination and Sakuya was too helpless to do anything about it. His words clearly sting Lilithea because she is convinced that her stupid master probably compromised himself in some way. As a top detective, it is important for Sakuya to act appropriately, and it is Lilithea's job to keep him in line. However, compared to his father, Sakuya feels like a fraud. Tatsuya has never recognized his son as anything more than a little boy trying to play pretend. This is where Lilithea steps in and assures Sakuya that together they are certified sleuths. After serving her master tea, Lilithea gets back to business and informs Sakuya that his father has been called away to deal with another important case. This time he has been asked to help out with a hijacking. Apparently, a little girl has somehow managed to hijack an entire plane coming to Japan from Singapore. Sakuya can only ever dream of getting such high-level cases, and his father being called in means that the hijacking has taken a serious turn. Meanwhile, the only case on Sakuya's schedule is a pathetic adultery investigation. This feels like a nice, safe case where the chances of Sakuya getting killed are pretty low. Unlike other detectives, Sakuya does not really care for grand murder mysteries inside mansions or islands. He is happy dealing with low-level threats that don't really make a difference in the world. The target for Sakuya's upcoming case is a 40-year-old film distributor named Katsuragi Makoto. He is going to be boarding a luxury cruise ship called the Queen Erie. The ship is headed to Singapore and Sakuya has to tail the guy in order to get more information about his strange activities. The following day, Sakuya and Lilithea board the Queen Erie as passengers. This cruise ship can hold more than 1,000 people, so it should be easy for the detective duo to blend in. Later on, while settling in their room, Lilithea reveals that Katsuragi has occasionally been known to purchase suspicious items. He also rented a condo in Tokyo recently, making his activities very in line with someone committing adultery. Sakuya also notices that the man had an awful lot of luggage with him when he was boarding. However, instead of coming up with any real theories, Sakuya speculates that perhaps Katsuragi has brought a lot of inappropriate toys with him. Lilithea is left dumbfounded by Sakuya's inability to think like a detective. Sakuya then asks Lilithea why Katsuragi has boarded the cruise ship in the first place. It turns out that the film distributor will be interviewing an actress known as Hagami Yuryu for an upcoming film. This entire interview is being conducted as a joint promotion with a travel company. Taking a look at Yuryu's resume, Sakuya can't believe that such a no-name talent has managed to land such a huge opportunity. While discussing the case, Sakuya receives a message from his father. He is going to be climbing up really high for his work. Instead of getting worried, Sakuya replies with a light-hearted response. The relationship between the father and son has always perplexed Lilithea because of their tendency to approach things differently. Later in the day, Sakuya and Lilithea continue their investigation by heading to the Queen Eerie Circus, a performance that will also be attended by Katsuragi. On the way, they have a chance encounter with Sozorogi, a police officer who has closely worked with Sakuya and his father. However, Sozorogi is no mood to get roped into another case. He is on the cruise strictly for a vacation and does not wish to work. Sozorogi decides to hit the booze and bids farewell to Sakuya very quickly. The man clearly has trauma after spending too much time with Sakuya's father. As expected, the circus finally begins and Katsuragi is sitting in the front row. Despite saying that the circus doesn't really interest him, throughout the show Sakuya can't help but become enamored by all the different acts. As a cowardly person who never takes risks, watching acrobats walking on tightrope and knives being thrown at performers is too much for Sakuya's weak constitution. Lilithea has to step in and make sure that Sakuya doesn't lose himself in fear. The circus performance continues and a giant clown appears on the screen. According to Lilithea, a clown with a teardrop on its face is actually considered a jester. Just then, a group of important-looking people approach Katsuragi and give him a warm welcome. So far, Sakuya has yet to see Katsuragi have any relations with a woman, so naturally Lilithea theorizes that perhaps he is having an affair with a cat or a cactus. It finally starts to make sense why Lilithea is Sakuya's assistant. She is just as deranged as him. In fact, Sakuya recalls Lilithea always being a weird one. He first met her after helping out his father on a case, and since then Lilithea has served the family. The final act of the circus begins, and it's the much-anticipated Globe of Death stunt. The performance is basically men recklessly driving their motorcycles within a giant metal globe. There is no telling what could happen when speed meets a confined space. Sakuya himself would be dead within seconds if he had to perform such a stunt. While the circus was entertaining, Sakuya and Lilithea basically learn nothing about Katsuragi, but the case is not over. Sakuya tells his assistant to keep an eye on their target while also rejecting the numerous temptations on the cruise ship. However, Lilithea can barely hide her true intentions. She already has an entire guidebook marked with her favorite activities. Since Sakuya is not a tyrant, he lets Lilithea have some fun while he conducts a solo investigation. But first, Sakuya heads to the bathroom where he thinks about his father's wise words. Tatsuya would tell his son to always keep an eye on his target, even if he has to use the restroom. This unsavory thought is quickly interrupted by the actress Yuryu crashing through the ceiling. Yuryu was not expecting to fall like that, especially not inside the men's room. Sakuya quickly helps her out and recognizes her face from his case files. The two of them sit down for a little chat, but Yuryu turns out to be more of an expert detective than the detective himself. She overheard Sakuya talking to himself and guessed that he was a detective aboard the cruise ship. Getting outed by a B-list actress is not Sakuya's proudest moment, but he is taken aback when Yuryu wants to hire him for an investigation. The young girl explains that she has been trying to find a cat called Lulu-chan. Yuryu heard the cat meowing from the ducts, but when she tried to help out, the entire ceiling collapsed. The situation is actually quite amusing to Yuryu, especially since the cat belongs to Katsuragi. Apparently the guy loves cats and brought all of his cats with him to the cruise ship. Yuryu took it upon herself to find the cat because she is worried about the little kitty, and Katsuragi will probably freak out as well. While the case is unusual, this is a good opportunity because Yuryu could probably provide insider information about Katsuragi. Plus, the girl kind of wants to save the cat so that she can land the role. So this partnership is a win-win situation. Yuryu is incredibly grateful to Sakuya for agreeing to help her out. He begins his investigation by heading over to the lower area of the ship. While calling out for the cat, Sakuya runs into a man who looks like a member of the staff. This guy points Sakuya towards the cargo hold where rats are often seen scurrying around, and a cat would naturally be there. Sakuya takes absolutely no note of the clearly suspicious man and heads into the dark cargo hold. Inside, he finds all the props and equipment used for the circus performance. Sakuya looks behind every crate in search of the cat, but only finds more props related to the circus. Unfortunately, things only get worse when Sakuya unknowingly slams right into a hanging body. At first, he believes that this is another fake prop or cosmetic. However, he is mortified at the realization that this is the body as a real human being. In fact, Sakuya saw this guy meeting with Katsuragi. The man was clearly hung using the equipment for the performance. According to Sakuya's observations, it would be difficult for the guy to hang himself, so someone definitely murdered him. The situation is looking tense and Sakuya needs Lilithea to drop everything and come to the crime scene. However, it is clear that the assistant is busy playing darts and couldn't be bothered to do her job right now. Sakuya finds Lilethea's attitude unbelievable, but then the sound of a cat grabs his attention. Looking around to trace the source of the meow, Sakuya finds the dead man's phone on the ground. He carefully picks it up with a napkin and takes a look at the fingertips. It should be easy for Sakuya to figure out the passcode. However, when Sakuya pulls out a pen to start figuring out the password, he finds an unexpected knife slicing through him like butter. The culprit is wearing the creepy jester mask from the circus and leaves Sakuya to bleed out on the floor. The jester disappears as Sakuya loses consciousness. This should be the end of Sakuya and his short-lived career as a detective. But this is actually just a regular Tuesday night for him. When Sakuya opens his eyes again, he finds Lilithea slowly caressing his head. It looks like the great detective managed to get himself killed yet again. Waking up in Lilethea's lap is the best thing Sakuya could ever imagine. However, the moment is ruined when he starts violently coughing because of his injuries. Sakuya's ability to come back to life feels like a cruel prank from God. Lilithea explains that Sakuya was out for an entire hour. During this time, she learned that the man hanging in the cargo is called Watanoya Nejihiko. No one else has been notified of the crime except for Watanoya's family, and they are really pissed at Sakuya. Nejihiko's family believes that Sakuya is the one who killed him. Hearing this makes Sakuya feel even more confused because he also got caught in the crossfire and died himself. Lilithea continues to explain that Nejihiko's family think they have figured out the entire case. They believe that Nejihiko tried to stab and kill Sakuya because the detective wanted to strangle him first. Sakuya's blood can also be found on Nejihiko's hands, and apparently he was holding the murder weapon in his hand as well. In self-defense, Nejihiko used his knife to stab Sakuya just in time. However, with his remaining strength, Sakuya managed to press the button to activate the equipment and pull Nejihiko into the air. Hearing all of this makes Sakuya feel remorseful, because he died only to be accused as the killer himself. However, Lilithea believes that now Sakuya has a chance to clear his name in front of the Watanoya family. So Sakuya gets to work and immediately confronts the accusers. As soon as the supposedly dead detective opens the door, everyone in the room freaks out. The little girl in the room cries out, thinking that a zombie is attacking. Sozorogi has been with the family as well, and he can't believe that Sakuya is alive. All of them were under the impression that Sakuya is as good as dead. In order to keep Sakuya's secret, Lilithea tells everyone she used a special technique from her homeland to revive Sakuya just in time. Sakuya then properly introduces himself as the detective who got roped into this case. What's even more surprising is that Sakuya is actually introducing himself to the CEO of an extremely popular confectioner company. Kashihiko is the head of the family and the CEO of the family. His wife, who looks quite dignified, is called Wako. Their eldest, nervous son is called Amihiko, and he has a small daughter known as Miko. Sakuya and Lilithea have heard of this company and even have their commercial tune memorized. But the little girl Miko does not think it's time for such tasteless jokes. She truly believes that Sakuya killed her uncle, and now he has the guts to appear before the family. But there has been a misunderstanding and Sakuya reveals that he actually saw the killer, thus proving his innocence. The entire family is left speechless as Sakuya explains that he never even met Nejihiko. There were also a lot of strange things about the crime scene. For starters, if Nejihiko had really tried to stab Sakuya, then their bodies would be closer together. However, that's not the case here. Plus, there are no blood trails that would indicate that Sakuya tried moving after getting stabbed. According to Sakuya, the killer stabbed him and then placed the knife in Nejihiko's hand so that his fingerprints would be on the murder weapon. Lilithea also used a fingerprint kit to identify that the only person who touched the equipment remote was Sakuya, even though the machine has been used by circus performers throughout the day. This means that the killer was smart enough to wipe off the remote and use Sakuya's thumb to press the button, so that it looks like Sakuya hanged Nejihiko in his dying breath. Instead of feeling sorry for his son, Kashihiko feels anger because Nejihiko probably brought shame upon the family. He believes that his son was dealing with shady people and got himself killed. Sakuya also can't provide further information about the killer's appearance since the criminal was wearing a clown mask. And according to Sazurogi, Nejihiko's phone was not at the crime scene, so it is likely that the killer chucked into the ocean. The case already looks hopeless, but Miko wants Sakuya to help find her uncle's killer. Seeing the child's determined case makes Lilithea accept the case on Sakuya's behalf. The meeting comes to an end and Sakuya discusses the case further with Sazurogi. He reveals that the killer probably threw the phone away because it contains some sort of a message from Nejihiko in his final moments. Sakuya also believes that the killer will come after him again. Once the killer finds out that they failed to kill Sakuya, it is likely that they will return to complete the job. This puts Sakuya at risk, but there is nothing Sazurogi can do about that. Being on a cruise ship means that everyone is trapped like animals in a cage, so the only option is to find the killer before he gets to Sakuya. Sazurogi then heads back to the crime scene to investigate it further. Meanwhile, Lilithea decides to check the cruise ship's passenger manifest. Leaving Sakuya alone doesn't feel right, but he wants to talk to the circus performers, so everyone splits up for now. As Sakuya heads over to his destination, he receives a frantic call from Yuryu. She finally managed to track down the cat Lulu with the help of some tuna flakes. Sakuya finds out that Yuryu is on the cruise deck and decides to come to her. However, Yuryu freaks out because she had made an interesting discovery. The cat has a camera attached to its collar, and it has been recording everything from the feline creature's perspective. Sakuya hears the cat meowing through the phone, and immediately recognizes it because he heard the same sound in the cargo as well. Yuryu continues to watch the footage on the camera. She can hear screaming and something awful happening in the cargo. Sakuya immediately tells her to stop watching and get away from the deck. However, it is too late. The masked clown killer has returned and tries to kill Yuryu. Backed into a corner, the cat falls from Yuryu's arms as the girl hits the railings. Yuryu stares in cold horror as the knife comes closer, but Sakuya arrives just in time. He pushes the killer away, causing the murder weapon to fall. However, Yuryu ends up falling as well. She is about to crash into the lower deck when Sakuya jumps in and catches the girl. Holding on to Yuryu is difficult for the scrawny detective, and to make matters worse, the killer grabs Sakuya and starts choking him to death. Things are looking bad for Sakuya, and he might just experience a second death. But a dart comes flying towards the killer, causing the person to pull back. Sakuya is relieved to see Lilithea standing above the deck with her trusty darts by her side. Sakuya then helps Yuryu get back up, and everyone looks back at the killer who has now been unmasked. Wako, Nejihiko's own mother, is the culprit of the gruesome crimes. Sazurogi and the rest of the Watanoya family arrive on the scene as well, and now Wako is forced to reveal everything. Before Wako can reveal everything, Kashihiko tells her to stop talking. Clearly, these two know something, so Sakuya reveals that the cat Lulu was running around the cargo with a recording device and captured something interesting. Sakuya plays the recording in which everyone can see Nejihiko and Wako arguing. Nejihiko appears to be upset about something and wants to expose the company once they get back to Japan. However, Wako begs her son not to do something drastic. It would ruin the Watanoya's family name and tarnish the entire business. However, Nejihiko reveals that he no longer wants to associate with a family that actually makes its money by dealing drugs. He doesn't want to use drug money to live his life, and so he intends on revealing the family secret. Amihiko, the eldest son, has no idea what his mother is talking about and demands an explanation. The cat Lulu then makes a dramatic entrance and starts ripping apart the decorative clown in the middle of the deck. Kashihiko and Wako freak out because this entire time they were hiding marijuana within the clown, and the cat finally revealed it. Sazurogi spells out the secret and figures out that the Watanoya family was using its farms to grow marijuana. Sakuya adds on and reveals that the entire cruise and the circus performance are all just a cover-up so that the family can smuggle drugs safely. Now that the secret is out, Wako still has no remorse. She believes that her son was always disobedient and refused to listen to his mother, so she had no choice but to kill Nehejiko, hoping to protect the family's tarnished legacy. Finally, Sakuya understands why Nehejiko left a dying message. He wanted someone to figure out that his mother was behind his untimely demise. More importantly, Sakuya and Lilithea have once again solved all of their cases, including the adultery investigation involving Katsuragi. It turns out that the film distributor was acting suspicious because he actually runs a cat account where his cats go out into the world with cameras and capture their daily lives, which Lilithea finds very cute. Yuryu also arrives on the scene informing Sakuya that Lulu has been safely returned back to Katsuragi. While Lilithea thanks Yuryu for her involvement, she also wants to know why this random girl is calling Sakuya her master. Using the context clues, Sakuya realizes that fewer words would be the best approach right now. He thanks Yuryu for helping him out on the case, but then the actress calls him master again, turning Lilithea into a scary demon. In the end, Sakuya is glad that everything turned out well, but his words were spoken a little too early. In the distance, a plane can be seen flying dangerously close to the water. Sakuya panics, knowing that the plane will crash into the cruise ship. However, when he looks at the number on the plane's wing, he realizes that this is the same plane his father was investigating for the hijacking case. The plane makes a violent impact with the cruise ship and everything gets consumed in a world of flames. Sakuya immediately thinks of his father and runs directly into the crash. Even though Lilithea tells him not to be so reckless, the entire place is a wreck and almost nothing is left of the place. Even so, Sakuya tries looking for his father in the wreckage. As he enters the plane, a large explosion causes Sakuya to drop his phone. He then receives one final message from his father. Tatsuya tells his son that everything is up to him now. His words feel ominous and Sakuya has a horrible feeling. At this point, Sakuya himself is on fire as well, but he is more worried about his father. There is no way that the famous Otsuki Tatsuya is going to fall like this. He is supposed to be immortal. Standing within the burning plane, Sakuya is frozen in place when a strange black figure appears before him. This weird entity asks Sakuya about the color of his brain, asking him if his brain is red, blue, or gray. However, the black figure does not expect an answer since most people have not seen their own brain. But that's not true for Sakuya. He actually has seen his own brain. A long time ago, he died when his head split open and the detective got to see his own brain. The creepy black figure, with a creepy smile on its face, hopes that Sakuya's brain is gray in color just like Tatsuya. Hearing these words forces Sakuya to use his remaining strength to punch the ominous figure, but his hand simply passes through, as if the figure is made out of smoke. Writhing from pain within the flames, Sakuya wonders if this is another cruel prank from God. Meanwhile, Lilithea watches in complete desperation as the flames rage across the cruise ship and Sakuya is nowhere to be found.